views and opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting groups. If you'd like to produce a show, call us at 260-421-1250.
Let me be your lighthouse so I can show you the way. Let me be your shining light, I'll keep you from drifting away. I'm the one that makes you try when...
Hello, welcome to my TV show, Patty's Page. My name is Patty Hunter. Today's special guest on my Zoom interview is Austin Ruse. Hello, Austin, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks.
And he is the president of Center for Family and Human Rights, or bracket CFAM. Welcome to my show, and I have a lot of questions for you, dear.
Good, thank you.
Well, our last interview was last September 2022. It's almost a year. A lot has happened since then, I reckon.
Sure, the UN is busy every single working day.
Wow. So we'll be covering several topics today, if you don't mind.
Sure.
The first one is UNICEF. Do tell. What is UNICEF up to now? I mean, what is they're doing?
Well, it's been a long time since we've actually looked closely at UNICEF because there's so many other things that are going on. The last time we looked at UNICEF last year, they had issued a document that seemed to suggest that children would benefit from looking at pornography. We reported on that several times, and they actually backed off a little bit. So we took a little bit of a victory at that time. But they are involved in everything that happens here at the United Nations with regard to life and family issues. So it's like their name is signed on to just virtually anything that happens here, because all of the UN agencies work in tandem, and all of them work toward advancing the sexual revolution. So UNICEF certainly hasn't changed even a little bit since the last time we talked about them.
So who are they? Who are they in UN? Is it anti-life? Is it feminism? What is it?
Well, the UN is run by people who are globalists. They believe in the power and the authority of themselves to tell every man, woman, and child on the face of the earth how to live their lives, especially their intimate lives. So they are radical feminists, they are sexual revolutionaries, they're socialists. It is the whole panoply of the left and the farther left.
Who gave them the power to do all this?
Well, they've taken it upon themselves. The UN was founded after the Second World War in order to encourage governments to talk to each other rather than fight each other. Not a bad idea, but they took it upon themselves quite early on to start issuing documents that would purport to tell the whole world how to behave. So it's like the governments created the United Nations. They turned the running of the United Nations over to a bureaucracy, and the bureaucracy has taken really complete control. And as with most bureaucracies, it is staffed almost exclusively by those of the left and the farther left.
Oh, man. So what are they trying to promote our children, to our children? Is it pornography?
Well, they're trying to make abortion an internationally recognized human right. They're trying to encourage school systems around the world to teach radical ideas of human sexuality under the guise of something called comprehensive sexuality education.
Mhm.
They're looking to redefine the family, to redefine relations between men and women. It is the sexual revolution writ large that they are trying to impose on every country in the world.
And what if we don't want it? Are they going to force us?
Well, did we want same-sex marriage in this country? No. Did was there a great call and fervor for abortion on demand in 1973? No. So what our wants and desires are really quite meaningless to them
Mhm.
because they have the power and they will enforce it any way that they see fit. Now, the good news is that we've been able to block an international right to abortion. We've been able to block a redefinition of the family. We even have a good definition of gender in international law. But what happens on paper often bears little resemblance to the reality of how these documents are implemented on the ground around the world.
So what's it doing to our children? Them trying to promote pornography and same sex and all that, especially our babes.
Well, I mean, you look at the record of the sexual revolution since the late 1950s, and you see, a breakdown of the American family. You see a general fleeing from marriage, the formation and foundation of families. You see an epidemic of sexual addiction. You see an epidemic of sexually transmitted diseases. I say to people that it has been the bloodiest revolution in the history of the world. It has taken more victims than Hitler, Stalin, Mao, and Pol Pot combined. I mean, just look at the number of AIDS deaths there have been, 40 million. These are all laid right at the doorstep of the sexual revolution. That does not include abortion, hundreds of millions. So it has been the bloodiest, the sexual revolution has been the bloodiest revolution in the history of the world. And it's destroyed lives and families and souls.
Who is it behind all of this that started many moons ago? Is it a certain group of rich people or what?
Well, I think that people like Rockefeller were certainly very involved in the beginning. Today, Bill Gates is very involved. The foundation has been very involved, but it's not exactly a cabal of the rich and powerful, because most of the people that are running the engine at the United Nations are, as Father Groeschel used to say, deluded middle-class people, who have bought the arguments of the devil and think that they're doing the right thing. So, yeah, I mean, there's huge money behind the sexual revolution. There's boatloads of money, hundreds of millions of dollars that certain individuals and entities are making from the sexual revolution, but it's being carried out by regular folks,
Who don't understand. If they don't know God,
Pardon me?
if they don't know God himself, then they're going to believe anything that's out there and do anything they think they can do to others as well as to themselves. And in the 50s, I guess that's when we started to get rid of God in church, not in church, I'm sorry, God in schools.
Well, that certainly hasn't helped. I wrote about this in my book, Under Siege, No Finer Time to Be a Faithful Catholic, that when, that we used to pray in schools and we used to read the Bible in schools. That was taken away by the Supreme Court.
Canada did that too.
And what we see is that it's actually been replaced by a new religious faith based on the tenets of the sexual revolution. So where they used to read the Bible in school, they now read, hardcore sex ed in schools. So mankind cannot get away from faith. And the Christian faith in schools has been replaced by an entirely new faith, an angry, vengeful faith, who insists upon, school children reciting their religious dogma. That sex is assigned at birth, for instance, that boys can be girls and girls can be boys. Those are religious tenets. They're not based in science. So, yeah.
No logic. Without God, we are aimlessly roaming around, destroying ourselves and others. That's why I'm on here with my show, trying to tell people, let's get back to normal. Way God had presented life to be, not way us creatures have presented life what it should be. So how can we reverse this evil?
Well, you know what we are doing at CFAM is we are working every working day to fight the sexual revolution at the United Nations. One of my colleagues right this second is sitting 15 feet from me, and she's following a major conference in Rwanda that I'm going to be writing about. I have colleagues in New York who are involved in the negotiations of something called the High Level Political Forum, where the social issues will be debated. So for us, it's just like we keep doing our work day in and day out. We've been doing it for 26 years. We're going to be doing it, as long as we're breathing. And what people can do in their own sphere is understand what's happening, tell their friends, talk to their friends, tell people what's really going on, talk to religious leaders, talk to political leaders. Quite frankly, there's so much for everybody to do.
They just have to do it.
Well, I also recommend to people that they don't get overly concerned with wins and losses, because when you get overly concerned with wins and losses, you can get discouraged and decide, I'm just going to go something else. You should just take such joy as I take, and my staff takes joy in the fight. God knows what he's about. He put us here at this time. And we're supposed to do what he has given us to do.
Follow him,
the
Lord himself. And other people will see that in you when they know that you are following the Lord. And they would understand or not understand. It's up to them. You can't force them to say, you think my way or not. If they see you're living a godly life, then they'll say, maybe there's something to this. The Lord himself. The Holy Spirit is within us and he's working, So, number 2, they're coming after our children. What's all that? Who are they?
Well, I mean, the sexual left. The sexual left are coming for our children. They need to indoctrinate our children into their new religion and make an adherence to the new religion. So this is why they want to be in grade schools more than anything, because they want to indoctrinate our children into their way of life and into their religious practices. So it's the sexual revolutionaries of all stripes.
Do they have the right to do this to our kids? They don't have the right.
Nobody has the right to lead children astray. But rights don't have anything to do with this. They are interested in power and imposing their view on the most defenseless. So yeah, rights don't have anything to do with this.
Money does. Money. A lot of people put money into that type of way of living, trying to make other people like them.
Well, that may be the case, but I mean, they're also true believers, whether there's money or not. I mean, the local school teacher who doesn't make a whole lot of money is nonetheless indoctrinating children into the sexual revolution. And that doesn't have anything to do with money. They are true believers.
Being brought up in the 50s and 60s. They don't know the truth because they're wandering away from the Lord himself. So anything that tickles their ear, they will follow.
They think that they will never truly be free unless they are completely sexually free, and that any institution that stands in their way, the family and the church, have to be either changed or destroyed in the change. And so, I mean, the fight goes back to, well, the Garden of Eden, but I mean,
Right.
more recently, it goes back to the French Revolution. The French revolutionaries knew quite well that their enemy was the church and the family, and they assiduously went after both priests, nuns, and the family unit. So they know who, for them, the enemy is.
Actually, it's Satan that's using these people, thinking the church and family are evil. It's the other way around, people. There's this treaty that the UN is putting together, a lot of treaties about
Well, there's an awful lot of documents that are being negotiated. There's a treaty that they are beginning to negotiate on crimes against humanity. There's an existing treaty called the Rome Statutes of the International Criminal Court, that gives prosecutory power to go after what they consider to be lawbreakers, and some of them certainly are. But they tried in the negotiations of the Rome Statutes back in the 90s to make it prosecutable if a woman couldn't get an abortion. We won that debate.
Yeah.
We also have in that document a very good definition of gender, men and women in the context of society. So they're creating a new crimes against humanity treaty in order, for many reasons, but also to walk back that very good definition of gender that exists in international law. So, I mean, there are documents and treaties being negotiated all the time, but there's also one called the Global Digital Compact, which is dangerous on many levels. They want to have a common understanding of how to use the internet all over the globe, and they want to manage it. And in there, they also want to go after what they consider to be hate. That is to say, a conversation like you and I are having right now. They want to be able to regulate and criminalize. So that is in that document, and we're also fighting that. So it's like the work is pretty much nonstop.
Overwhelming sometimes. You just have to catch your breath.
My staff worked really, really hard. They've been at it for years and years. They're pretty level-headed. They tend not to get freaked out. We just do the work day in and day out.
But you're used to that. Some of the people need your guidance as well as strength from the Lord and from you, your organization. We really do need your organization. CFAM is a center for family and human rights, and I agree with that. Human rights is what is necessary. Otherwise, we'll be trampled on, destroyed, and not much of a human race left over if we don't. Yeah. The last topic. UN again. United Nations, I'll say. Rejecting pro-life groups from the UN Commission on the Status of Women.
Yeah. Starting in January and going through the spring, there's a series of commissions. The Commission on the Status of Women, the Commission on Population and Development, the Commission on Social Development. I call it the commission season. And each of these commissions are 54 member states who get together and negotiate a document that is then passed along to the General Assembly for ratification. During these conferences, the Commission on the Status of Women is the biggest one of the year. There can be upwards of 5,000 radical feminists attending, and maybe 20 or 30, sometimes as many as 100 pro-lifers who may be in attendance or following it. So there's a governmental negotiation at the commission, and then there are what's known as side events or parallel events. And this year, pro-life groups were banned from having side events. They asked all groups to sign a statement that, quite frankly, none of us could sign if we were pro-life, because it was just full of radical ideas. And then we all applied to do side events, and we were all turned down because of this blanket refusal, and we were all banned. We ended up doing conferences with member states, but in terms of doing side events on the NGO track, we were not allowed.
That's weird, because they say we hate, and yet they're hating us because we want to help people live. Lord gave them the right to live, and only the Lord can take it away from the womb to the tomb. So that gets me mad. Okay.
It doesn't stop us from doing our work. It's like they've tried to keep us out for 26 years, and they've never really been able to, because we always have the ear of governments who stand with us. And so, it's a minor hiccup, to tell you the truth, but it does illustrate the fact that they are the intolerant left.
Yet they call us intolerant. Not logical. So these powerful groups that are forcing pro-lifers out of the UN, that's the feminist people, and who else?
Well, I mean, like I said before, they're sexual revolutionaries. They're people of the left. They're radical feminists. They're population controllers. They are the sexual left. Yeah.
Ms. Gabby's, how about Soros? George Soros? Is he involved with this?
Well, I mean, George Soros is a major driver of the sexual left all over the globe. So absolutely, he's involved. And his organizations come after my organization, are like-minded organizations. So yeah, they're very active in this space.
I hope you got a lot of lawyers behind you to say, enough already, we're going to fight back. I think you are.
Well, we've never sued anybody. We don't really have the time or the money to do that. We just take it and we move on.
Legally.
It can't really hurt us.
Yeah. Yeah. Like water off the duck's back. Anyways, legally and peacefully, we got to start working to help our own human race. Started. Again, you started 26 years ago. I started mine about 13, 14 years ago, and we still have to keep on going, because every generation is a new way of thinking, and then they go right back to the way they used to think generations ago. Loop. So that's why
it's a good long fight, but it's a good fight. It's what he's given us to do. So it is what it is. We just do it.
And I'm praying that our people who watch this show, my audience, realize what's out there. All these gangs and shootings and trying to force people to think their way, same-sex marriage and all that jazz. God is there through it all. He is in control. We got to realize that. Okay. So our lives from the womb to the tomb is very precious. And these so-called experts who say that is not, we must legally and peacefully hang in there and fight them. And that's why I'm talking to my audience that you are not alone. So we're here, and there will be more people like us throughout the generations who know God, who want to help the human race, and we deserve to live. What would you like to share with my audience, sir, bringing hope for the future of our planet, Earth, and its people?
Well, I mean, I would just reiterate the fact that we can't be all caught up in wins and losses. We just have to do what he has given us to do day in and day out, and take comfort in the fact that we're doing his work on Earth. And that is our victory. We know that he has already won, and we are fighting skirmishes for him. So it's like, just enjoy the work that he has given us to do. It's like when my guys walk into a UN conference up in New York, you can see the other side
Cringe.
deflated.
Oh,
So it's like, just by showing up, you make the world a better place, and you have to take great joy in that. So that's what I would tell your audience.
I'd like to thank you for coming on to my show, Austin Ruse.
Thank you so much for having me.
And I'd like to have you back on when we have more stuff to talk about, eh?
Good.
Okay.
Anytime.
This is Patty Hunter, Patty's Page, wishing everyone a blessed week. God bless you all, and may the Lord be with you. And thank you, Austin Ruse, for being my special guest.
My pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Godspeed, my love, until we meet again. You're always in my heart and every dream. Don't let this time apart give in to all our fears. God will keep us close from up above. So until we meet again, Godspeed, my love. God is with us always, and for the rest of our lives.